Good morning and welcome to today's business. My name is Odunayo Sawyer. As Nigeria shifts from macroeconomic stabilization in 2024 to 2025 to accelerated growth and investment mobilization from 2026 onward, the federal government has unveiled a bold strategy targeting a $1 trillion GDP by 2036. Anchored by the Federal Ministry of Finance, this second wave plan builds on reforms like exchange rate unification and fiscal consolidation, now prioritizing productivity, output scaling, and 246 trillion naira in long-term capital. What is ahead? Join us on an expert analysis on how this positions Nigeria for economic resurgence. Olaoluwa Aladejano will be joining us via phone. I'm from Lagos. My name is Odunayo Sawyer. Thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of the program. We'll take a short break. Business Today will be back. Don't go away. All right, joining me on this program this morning via phone and from Lagos is Olaoluwa Aladejano. We'll be taking a look at the 2026 economic agenda of the federal government. Thank you so much, Mr. Aladejano, for joining us on Business Today.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome on the program. Now, Nigeria transitions from macroeconomic stabilization, that's between 2024 to 2025, to accelerated growth and investment mobilization. And taking a look at the strategic context, we had a stabilization phase in 2024 to 2025. Then in 2026, we aim to transition to expansion, focus on output scaling, domestic value creation, capital mobilization, and our target is $1 trillion GDP by 2036. Now, how would you assess Nigeria's 2025 year-end performance? Hello, Mr. Aladejano.
Yeah, hello.
Are you there? So, how would you assess Nigeria's 2025 year-end performance?
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, please. Yeah, please, could you take that question again? Actually on the...
Okay. Now, okay.
So
all right. No,
yeah.
let me summarize everything to you. Nigeria transitions from a macroeconomic stabilization between 2024 to 2025 to accelerated growth and investment mobilization. And this year in 2026, we aim to have a $1 trillion GDP by 2036. And in 2026, we aim to transition to expansion focused on output, scaling, domestic value creation, and capital mobilization. Now, how would you assess Nigeria's 2025 year-end performance?
Okay, well, Nigeria 2025 year-end performance actually ended on a very good note with key indications in the stability of the economy, and which I believe the 2026 this growth acceleration and investment mobilization strategy is expected to consolidate the stabilization of the economy. At least we got out of the trenches of between 2024 and 2025. So we believe this strategy aims to consolidate on the success of the economy in the year 2025.
Okay, now, so inflation dropped to 14.45% from a high of... Can you hear me, Mr. Aladejano?
Excuse me, please. Hold on, please.
Okay, all right.
Okay, please take the question again.
All right, now, inflation dropped to 14.45% from a high of about 32% last year. the naira witnessed some stability, and don't forget the state of security in the country too. However, projections for GDP growth is better than last year. What economic outlook do you foresee for 2026? Are you optimistic about 2026?
Yes, extremely optimistic about 2026 because of
All right, we take another break on the program. We seem to have lost Mr. Aladejano, but we'll be right back on the program. Don't go away.
please take the question again.
Okay, all right, Mr. Nadejana is back on the program. We seem to be having a little bit of network issues on the program this morning. Now, Mr. Aladejano, inflation dropped to 14.45% from a high of about 32%. As at December, inflation is at about 14%. Now, the naira equally witnessed some stability last year, but we had issues with our state of security. We had increase in banditry and a resurgence in Boko Haram attacks. However, projections for GDP growth for this year is better than last year. What economic outlook do you foresee for year 2026? Are you optimistic about the growth of this year?
Yes, absolutely. I foresee absolutely the macroeconomic predictability for 2026 is strengthening the coordination between the Ministry of Finance and the Standard Bank to ensure the exchange rate stability. This inflation targeting about 20.94% by the end of 2026, and orderly credit conditions. So we also have a clear sectoral investment pathway for 2026, that is removing regulatory bottlenecks and price controls to allow for willing buyer and willing seller philosophy in key industries. These are all core pillars of the 2026 agenda for the economy. We are also going to have a disciplined policy execution, that is moving from theoretical reforms to aggressive implementation, monitored by a new National Investment Oversight Committee. So we believe that at the end of 2026, if all these core pillars play and work together, we are going to have one of the best economic growth in recent years.
Now, talking about disciplined fiscal reforms that you just mentioned, let's not forget that 2026 is penultimate year for elections, and that is this year. And fiscal discipline is usually very lax. How do you see this affecting the economic agenda of President Bola Tinubu for 2026?
Okay, well, that's a very interesting question because of the peculiarity of year 2026 being the year pre-election. How do I see
this affecting the economic agenda of Mr. President?
Oh yeah, well, if Mr. President and those working with him are being honest and true to themselves, if they do governance and separate governance from politics, then we will be able to still have a very great economy at the end of year 2026, despite the fact that 2026 is an election year where fiscal discipline go out of the roof. But like I said, if the policymakers and the executors are being very, very truthful and honest and go by the agenda, I want to believe, given honesty and discipline appropriation of the public funds, it shouldn't affect it.
Okay, now, so do you see the expected? Do you see excessive spending into infrastructure projects this year, with this year being a penultimate year to the 2027 general elections?
Okay,
do you see increased funding into infrastructure development, infrastructure projects, being that we see a lot of spending penultimate year to elections? Do you see, do you see our political leaders spending much into infrastructure projects?
Oh, okay, that's a very sharp observation. The concern that infrastructure spending might trend or spike primarily for political visibility as we head into the 2027 election cycle is one we should take seriously. However, I want to clarify how the 2026 growth acceleration agenda is intentionally structured to avoid election cycles trap.
Okay.
So there's going to be a shift from new projects to completion and consolidation. The 58.18 trillion 2026 budget was actually shows a deliberate 6% reduction in infrastructure allocation compared to that of 2025. This isn't a retreat, it is actually a pivot to ensure that existing projects are completed and consolidated. So the strategy is, instead of starting hundreds of political projects, let me put that in quotes, the government is going to be focusing on renewed open infrastructure funds to complete existing and high-impact corridors like the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and Badagry and Sokoto Road. So the goal is to move from vision to reality and on projects that actually lower the cost of doing business rather than cutting ribbons for optics ahead of year 2027 election. So I don't know if that answers your questions correctly.
And I just talked about the rollover of 2025-23 trillion naira capital budget being rolled over to 2026. 2026 capital budget is about 26 trillion, boosting total capital spending to about 45 trillion in this pre-election year. So what political and economic implications do you foresee with this budget rollover to this year?
Please take that question again. The network's a little bit bad on the road.
Yeah, you just talked about the budget rollover. That's about 70% of 2025-23 trillion naira capital budget rolling over to 2026. You've talked about seeing much of projects being completed rather than new ones springing up. What political and economic implications do you foresee to this, being a pre-election year?
Okay, so what political implication do I?
Yes, what political and economic? Yes.
Being a pre-election year.
Yes. Not forgetting the economic implications too.
Okay, factoring in the economic implications. Okay.
Yes.
So you politically, the predominant year is 2026. Is the window where the administration move from reform to plan visible results actually. So the no project strategy by rolling over 70% of 2025 budget, the government is making a political bet on completion. So in a pre-election year like 2026, a finished road is worth more than 10 flagged up sites. That will make the government score a political point. Voter perception. If the government fails to complete this project by early 2027, the opposition will frame the rollover as a sign of administrative incompetence or budget padding by another name. So the political risk is that 70% rollover sounds like 70% failure to execute to the average voter, but it is not actually. So the economic implication, fiscal discipline and liquidity. So we are seeing a massive 26 trillion capital budget, about 45% of the total 58 trillion. So the clear state policy is that President Tinubu explicitly stated that by March 31st, 2026, the era of overlapping budget must end. This rollover is designed to mop up the 2024 and 2025 cycles, so that from April 2026, Nigeria operates on a single year calendar, which is a very, very laudable and commendable policy. So we also have the contractor confidence. Included in this budget is 1.7 trillion, specifically to settle outstanding liabilities for an executive for to
We seem to be having so much network issues with Mr. Aladejano this morning, but we'll try to reconnect with him. But at this point, we'll take another break on the program to be able to do that. Mr. Aladejano, okay, I'll get back to you. All right, okay, Mr. Aladejano, please go ahead.
Okay, so the questions you raised is a classic economic fear, pre-election fiscal challenge, as we call it in economics. So history shows that in the year before an election, capital spending often becomes a front for political transfers. So the guardrails for us as a nation, and to prevent this, if the government is sincere, is that the 2026 agenda introduced digital revenue mobilizations. By digitizing every couple of revenue and expenditure, the government is trying to prove that this 26 trillion is actually hitting the ground and not leaking into campaign offers. Yes, thank you.
All right, with stability as a priority one, Mr. Aladejano, what concrete measures should government implement to restore investor confidence amid ongoing economic pressures?
Concrete measures?
Yes. What concrete measures should the federal government implement to restore investor confidence in the economy, drive foreign direct investment into the economy, as since stability is the priority of this government?
Okay. So to restore investor confidence amidst the current economic pressure, the government is moving away from stabilization phase of 2024 to 2025 and into a growth acceleration phase of for 2026. The biggest hurdle for investors has been fragmented communication, hearing different things from different ministries. So the measure here is to provide a single window interface within the Ministry of Finance. The desk should serve as the sole point of contact for foreign and domestic investors, direct foreign investments, and rating agencies. So they have a single window of interface with the Finance Ministry. So the goal here will be to provide a sovereign guarantee of transparency and ensure consistent policy signaling. So investors, another point is that disinflation and the growth acceleration strategy. Investors hate volatility. They need to know that the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Finance are in the same room. So institutionalized coordination between fiscal and monetary authorities to achieve 12.94 inflation target and exchange rate stability, currently hovering around 1,440 to 1,500 naira range. So lowering the risk premium so that the cost of capital for private investor finally starts to drop. And finally, government is shifting to a willing buyer. I think I said it earlier. Removal of regulatory bottlenecks and price controls. Government is shifting to a willing buyer and willing seller philosophy across key sectors like energy and agricultural business. And the measure here is to strip away price controls and volume restraints that previously discouraged entrepreneurial capital. And the goal is to let the market forces determine price to make sectors like gas-based industrialization and manufacturing bankable for large-scale investors.
Industrialization. Now, talking about energy, building on foundational reforms implemented over the past 24 months by the Tinubu administration, this time around with focus on the energy market restructuring. Now, the Tinubu administration is advancing into a second wave of reforms focused squarely on unleashing accelerated GDP growth, productivity, and capital formation. Now, Mr. Ladijano, energy remains Nigeria's greatest bottleneck, affecting thousands of businesses, MSMEs, industrial bigwigs. Now, looking at the past 24 months of restructuring, and as Nigeria targets its $1 trillion GDP by 2036, what bold steps in gas to power and renewable integration do you think will drive the second wave's of success? What should government do in the power sector to achieve this $1 trillion GDP it aims to achieve in 2036?
Okay, so what should government do in the power sector to achieve the $1 trillion economy in 2026? Okay, so excuse me, please. So in the context of 2026 growth acceleration agenda, the power sector is no longer viewed as the social service, but as the primary ending room for the $1 trillion GDP goal. To reach this milestone, the government's 2026 strategy should shift from fixing the grid to market-driven expansion. And here is what the government must do in the power sector this year. You know, the willing buyer and the willing seller paradigm, I cannot overemphasize that. Then, most importantly, aggressive metering to solve the liquidity trap. You cannot have $1 trillion economy if 50% of the power generated isn't paid for. So the measure here is to target 2026 to install 4 million smart meters and up to 1.5 million in 2025. So this will provide digital trust needed to secure the revenue cycle. To secure the revenue cycle for investors, ensuring that payment flow in real time is a revenue optimization platform for any serious investor who may want to invest in power in Nigeria. Then gas-based industrialization, that is the base load strategy. While renewables are growing, renewable energy is growing, the 2026 agenda recognizes that gas is the transitionary fuel for heavy industry. So using Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, to unlock gas infrastructure, the government is securing funding, let me say should secure funding to expand transportation networks, especially to ensure a reliable gas supply to thermal plants. And the goal is to move beyond the current 5,800 megawatt peak and stabilize the grid at a much higher capacity to support the manufacturing sector, and that is another priority for 2026 pillar. Then decentralized renewable energy. The government should move away from grid-only mindset. The 2026 plan targets about $100 million in a long-term local currency capital, specifically for distributed renewable energy, that is mini grids. So the goal here is to reach the 9% annual increase in electricity access required to hit the universal electricity access by year 2030. Then strengthening the sole provider, that is the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN. TCN is upgrading to 8,700 megawatts, wheeling capacity through digital transformation, using real-time data analytics and predictive maintenance. Then the here is to reduce the frequency of system collapse, which will cost the economy an estimated amount of 26 billion naira annually. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Olaoluwa Ladejano, for joining us on Business Today to take a look at the economic agenda of the federal government for year 2026. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
You are most welcome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. And we hope that whenever we call you again, you will oblige us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ladejano. Do have a pleasant day.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. All right, inflation rate as at December was at 14.45%. The Central Bank of Nigeria decided to leave the monetary policy rate at 27%. It decided to do that to pause further cuts to let a previous tightly influence the economy despite falling inflation to achieve stability. And this year, the strategic context of the federal government is to see that the country moves from its macroeconomic phase to that stabilization phase to a growth phase, and in 2026 to transition to expansion by focusing on output scaling, domestic value creation, and capital mobilization. And it is equally targeting $1 trillion GDP by 2036. And before we leave on the program, we'll take this story. The federal government is targeting 189.16 billion naira from national asset sales and privatizations in 2026 to help finance a 58.47 trillion naira budget. This amount forms part of a 25.27 trillion naira deficit financing plan alongside 23.04 trillion in new debt and 2.05 trillion naira in project tied loans. In September last year, the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE Ayodeji Beleyi, confirmed that 91 federal assets would be privatized as part of ongoing efforts to optimize public enterprises, attract investment, and boost efficiency across key sectors of the economy. He stated that out of the 91 firms the government had earmarked for privatization or commercialization, 16 are in the oil and gas sector, including refineries and depots, though he did not name them. He added that 12 operate in agriculture, 20 in aviation, and 28 are in other public enterprises. The remaining firms include those in mines and steel, transport, ecotourism, as well as 2 agencies under the Federal Capital Territory Administration. According to the DG, equity in 35 of the firms will be fully privatized, while equity in 57 will undergo partial privatization. And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Odunayo Soya. Good morning.